The Hilltop Glove Podcast is sponsored by Mid-Carolina Service Company.
Mid-Carolina Service Company is the first name to search for your residential or commercial HVAC needs in Lexington and surrounding areas.
Just go holler at Jason and Clint. They'll hook you up on the air conditioners, on the restaurant equipment, refrigerators, refrigeration, ice machine repair. They've been doing this for years. I know them cats forever.
Family owned and operated since 2006, they pride themselves in their quality work and customer relationships. Call 803-356-4153 or visit midcarolinaserviceco.com for a no obligation quote for service today. This episode of Hilltop Glove Podcast is proudly sponsored by Your Dollar Store. Located at 3017 Farrell Road in Columbia, South Carolina. Owned by Brian Thomas, Your Dollar Store has been serving the community since June 2021 with a mission to provide fresh produce and essential household items to neighborhoods in need, serving areas like Booker, Washington Heights, and other nearby locations affected by grocery store closures. Your Dollar Store is a convenient one-stop shop for those seeking healthier food options and affordable essentials. Support a local business that's dedicated to giving back. Your Dollar Store, where you can shop, chat, and leave with a smile.
The Hilltop Glove Podcast is sponsored by True Brilliance Entertainment.
True Brilliance is a production, promotions, and management company dedicated to connecting artists and producers across the Carolinas to music industry professionals.
Several of their clients have placements both domestic and internationally as a result of their services.
Are you an artist or producer looking to build meaningful relationships within the music industry? Then True Brilliance is for you. Check them out at paramilitary.com. That's spelled P-A-I-R-A military.com.
Welcome to the Hilltop Glove Podcast.
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 The Hilltop Glove Podcast.
Welcome to the Hilltop Glove Podcast. Today, we are thrilled to have an exceptional guest, Dr. Mervin Spectac Jenkins, a multi-talented MC, educator, and community leader whose journey through the hip-hop landscape is nothing short of inspiring. Spectac first made waves in 1993 with his memorable verse on the track Hookaz from the underground South Carolina group, the Phlayva.
That's it.
Throughout his career, Spectac has worked alongside some of the industry's greats, including Ninth Wonder, DJ Shakim, and longtime collaborator Amiri Gamble. With a voice that resonates both lyrically and academically, Spectac uses his platform to inspire and educate professionally, Flocabulary, blending hip-hop culture with valuable life lessons. Join us today as we dive into this journey, exploring his evolution in the industry, the importance of community, and the power of music to uplift and educate. Whether you're a longtime fan or new to his work, this episode promises to be a rich and enlightening experience.
Let's go.
Yay! How are you doing today?
Yes.
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. Excited to be with you guys.
Excellent, man. This interview has been
How
a
long
long time in the making. But I think everything happens for a reason. And so,
doubt.
we're just, like I said, we're just thankful, blessed to be able to sit down with you because I know you're very busy.
Yes.
I know you move a lot. Like I said, you're doing, productive things, obviously.
Yeah, we move.
Of course.
And I heard a lot about you from my brother and other people.
Yep.
As we were telling you earlier, we did a project alongside some work with Alternative Roots.
Oh, word.
And trying to document some South Carolina hip hop histories for the
that's what's
50th
up.
anniversary. We thought it was so important because South Carolina, first of all, for people who don't know, is a landmark place for most American music. American.
There it
We're
is.
talking about
There it is.
bluegrass.
Yep.
We're talking jazz, pop, funk. All of these folks who do American music, there are a lot of roots here in South Carolina, but for some reason nobody talks about us when it comes to music.
So interesting fact, and I'm so off script right here, but what up, Jay, man? Make yourself at home.
Hey.
Yep. Very, very interesting that you say that, because I remember back in the 90s, I was working with an independent record label, R&B group, and this promoter came down from Baltimore, Maryland, and he said to me, he said, you know, man, you guys shouldn't even try to become nationally recognized coming out of South Carolina as musicians, because the way the industry looks at you guys, you're the perfect testing ground. And what I mean by that, back in the 90s, you could come to South Carolina, and I don't care what type of hip-hop music you were listening to, there was an audience for it in South Carolina. So in other words, if it was booty music,
Yeah.
you had an audience. If it was New York rap, quote unquote, you had an audience. If it came out of New Orleans, West Coast, you had an audience. Unlike those other regions where if you were on the West Coast, I mean, yeah, you had heads that were like, give me the New York stuff, but for the most part, they wanted West Coast music, which is why an artist like Sir Mix-a-Lot could go platinum just in his state. You know, but that wasn't happening. The Carolinas was truly a testing ground for almost any sound. And the guy said to me straight up, that's why you guys are going to never have like an artist to blow major from South Carolina, because you are the testers, and we need you to keep testing.
Wow.
Now, again, that's just what somebody shared with me.
Yeah.
But I'm like, hey, here we are, 2024. And I mean, has anybody truly blown up?
No.
Especially on the hip hop side of things.
Yeah.
We've had some home runs. But it hasn't been consistent.
Instrumental music, some jazz groups. Like I said, Americana in general, because everything comes out of here. But you're right, hip hop wise, no.
Boom.
Yeah,
No.
makes sense.
I just thought that was interesting, man. So it is funny you say that.
Wow. No, because that makes, and it makes so much sense too, with us coming here and talking to you today, because part of the reason for doing so is with our podcast, we're focusing on basically creating a digital Rolodex, almost a networking guide for millennials who have questions and concerns about how to be successful as adults without a roadmap, not knowing the difference between
sure
the analog and digital.
You sure y'all got questions, man? I mean,
yes.
All right.
Good for your questions.
Yep.
So we got to start off. We'll start with number one.
Yep.
So our primary question we want to ask is, of course, because like I said, I know we've been in conversation a lot over the past year and a half. So can you just describe for our audience your journey from hip hop to where you are today?
All right. So going back with the intro, the Phlayva, that group, the song was actually called Hookaz. Just everything was it was that era where you spelled everything different. That's just what it was. 1983, man. 1983, I started freestyle rapping for the very first time. And it was just by happenstance. I had a cousin from New York City. I grew up in rural South Carolina, a little town called Utahville.
Oh, yeah, no,
Stand up,
Right, Orangeburg County.
Yeah.
You know, hour 15 outside of Charleston. Hour really from Charleston.
Yeah.
But I had a cousin from New York. He came down. He got kicked out of middle school in New York, and you know the routine.
They always get cousins from New York.
Come down south to live with your grandparent.
Yeah,
you
of
know?
course.
Yeah.
And he was rapping and breaking, and I was like, yo, this looks pretty dope. So one day they would battle every day in the bathroom, and the battles would be intense, man, because the guys and girls would pack the bathroom. Somebody's in the corner beatboxing for the acoustic, and guys would just go at it.
Dang.
You know, verse for verse.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was a spectator. Like, dang, I want to get in this. So finally one day, that cousin, and he wasn't a close cousin, he said to me, yo, you on for the battle tomorrow, son? And I was like, word? Now, in my mind, I'm going, yo, I heard we're cousins. Me and you gonna battle somebody? So I went home that night. I'm writing my rhyme, practicing, didn't do no schoolwork. Next day, first period went by, second period, all of a sudden it's lunchtime. I'm in the bathroom, and my cousin walks up. It's crowded, and he's like, well, yo, since I'm the champ, you go first. And I'm like, what, me against you?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, what you thought?
Yeah.
I was like, man, I thought it was me and you against two other people. He's like, nah, son. So they start beatboxing, and obviously I got nervous. What I wrote totally just went from my head, and I just started rhyming. I knew I couldn't stand there and just
can't
do
breathe.
nothing. So I started talking about the raggedy ass Adidas he had on, and busted jeans, and needless to say, the crowd went crazy. He didn't get a chance to rap because they were screaming so loud, and the bell rang to go back to class. A villain was born that day. We never got along from that day forward.
Oh, the villain story.
That was an origin story for real.
Yeah.
For him it was.
Yeah.
And for me as well, because I was like, yo, I can like make this up on the spot. And that's kind of how that came to be. But that was 1983, man. Wow. So a very long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Man. So what? So I guess, because like I said, because I know a little bit about your story as well. So you were in Utahville, and your villain arc got started, right? But of course it continues.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, because you went to South Carolina State for undergrad, correct?
Benedict.
Oh, Benedict.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So what?
That's a Benedict.
Shout out to Benedict.
Holla.
Yep. To my Benedict grad.
Yep.
So what was it like on your journey when you got to college?
I wasn't ready to learn. I mean, if I'm being honest with you, the funny thing is, I remember being in high school, and I was on the bus one day, and all of my friends were like yelling out what colleges they had been accepted to. I was a 12th grader, and folks were like, "Oh, I'm going to Clemson. Oh, I'm going to South Carolina State. I'm going here, Claflin." And as it got to me, someone said, "Yo, Spec, where you going?" And I looked up. I was like, "Yo, I'm moving with my aunt in Far Rockaway, Queens. I'm gonna be a rapper." And my friends were like, "All right," they knew me for rapping. They were like, "All right, we can see that."
Yeah.
Problem is, I went home and told my mom that. My mom, mind you, she's a school teacher.
Oh.
She's like, "What? I don't think so." And we got into this huge argument, man. And I remember it was probably the biggest argument we had been in up to that point.
Yeah.
And of course, never since. And the argument ended because after going back and forth of her asking me the question, "So Mervin, if you had applied to college like your friends did, you and I wouldn't be having this conversation." I said, "Absolutely not, but I didn't apply to college, so let me go to New York. If it doesn't work, I'll come back in a year and do whatever you want me to do."
Yeah.
And she was like, "All right, but you're telling me if you had applied to college and been accepted, we wouldn't be having this argument." I said, "Yep." Man, my mom reached behind her back. She handed me 2 envelopes.
Wow.
I tore open the first one. They were addressed to me.
Yeah.
I tore it open. It was like, "Dear Mervin, thank you for applying to South Carolina State University. We look forward to seeing you in the fall."
What?
And I popped the second one.
I'm gonna take a drink on that one.
Same
What?
thing, but it was Benedict. And I was like, "Yo, Mom, I ain't applied to college."
Yeah.
And she smiled and she was like, "Yeah, I applied for you." And so I went to college mad, man. I only chose Benedict because it was further away from my mom and dad than South Carolina State was.
Yeah.
I knew South Carolina State. I used to sneak up there and party on the campus, so I knew South Carolina State.
Yeah.
I had no idea about Benedict, but I went.
Yeah.
And I mean, honestly, first couple of years, I got arrested for some petty stuff. But it was bad because here I am looking to get certified in teaching.
Yeah.
And if you got a criminal record, you don't get certified for teaching.
Yeah.
No.
So I had to go through pretrial intervention, get that cleared away. But I mean, again, stealing a pack of cigars, to be honest with you, Black and Mild cigars.
I love the honesty.
Yeah.
I love the honesty.
Appreciate it.
That's another story in itself.
Yeah.
But I mean, eventually, student teaching, like being able to go out and have that practice with my student teaching, that was an eye opener. There were a few other instances that things happened that just made me see it was time to switch it up.
Gotcha.
You know, I mean, a perfect example. I was hanging with a group of guys that none of us knew our government names. And I remember the night I broke from that crew. We were all in the room. I wasn't smoking weed, but some of them were smoking weed. Some were drinking. I didn't really drink.
Yeah.
I definitely had my cigars, of course, my Black and Milds.
Yep.
And I stopped the whole room and I was like, "Yo, guys, man, like, why don't we spend time like studying together in the library and taking turns going to each other's home, meeting parents on the holidays?" And I remember the room got quiet. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, it's going over well.
Yeah.
And then somebody was like, yo, whatever you smoking, son, I want that.
Damn.
And they all bust out laughing. And I was like, yo, I'm out.
Yep.
And I literally walked out of the room. And as I'm walking down the hall, I could hear them laughing like, yo, what's up with Spec? That dude's, yo, he's bugging. And I was like, man, just turn around, go back in the room and tell them you were just playing and let it be what it is. And then something was like, nah, kid, keep walking. And literally, that was the game changer, man. Grades changed overnight, felt like.
Yeah.
And I saw the people who were really supporting me, my parents, they saw the change, and it just made them happy, man, which made me feel good, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, we spend a lot of time looking for acceptance from our peers, and the reality is our peers usually can't do much for us, man.
No.
People we spend out, especially as a youth.
Yeah.
You spend time trying to impress folks with your fat string Adidas or whatever the case might be. I mean, think about that right now, man.
Yeah.
Like it didn't matter what sneaker I had in high school at this point in my life.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't matter, man. So and I get it. When you're in that moment, it's hard to navigate, and that's one of the things that Life Through Music is all about.
Okay.
When I'm talking with kids about peer pressure, you know, peer pressure is something that rides us from birth to the casket. I mean, trust me. Even as an old person, you're sitting down. My dentures better than your dentures. Like it never leaves. All right.
Yeah, it's a turtle. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
so
it's gonna be
how do you navigate those things? And that's a big part of kids seeing success early in life, man. Learning how to navigate things such as peer pressure.
So, if you could just share with us a little bit about Life Through Music and just how that got started, just the journey to that piece.
My life through music. I was always the reluctant learner. And when I came up with the idea to start doing those workshops with educators, it was really through the lens of how do we engage the reluctant learner. Everybody would love a scenario as a teacher or administrator where every kid came to school ready to learn.
Yeah.
But that's just not the reality.
No.
You know, I mean, you're lucky if you get 25% of your audience ready to learn. The rest of them, you got to find out what connects, what ticks. So my work with Life Through Music, I try to engage several different audiences. Community stakeholders is one. Obviously, the students are another, administrators, and then classroom teachers. And the gist of it is, man, I really try in the workshops to get the adults to realize that we can be the most detrimental part of a student's experience. We can make or break a student. And even as a school principal, I used to ask a question in the interviews to teacher. Every teacher I interview, what puts a kid at risk? And usually I would interview with a team of teachers because I always wanted my teachers to have buy-in on who we were bringing in to be a part of the community. But I didn't ask questions. I let the teachers ask the questions of the candidate, and then my last question, the final question was, tell me what puts a student at risk. And I can tell you, most teachers, single family home, drugs in the community. And while all that may be correct, the answer I was looking for is, if you were gonna say that, also, we as adults, as the adults in the building, can put students at risk.
Yes.
And every now and then I would get a teacher to say that. And the teacher team, the team of teachers, they got so used to it that when a teacher would say it, they would just give that funny smile and look at me like, okay, we know you're about to hire this person. But that's what I was looking for, because you know what? That meant that was somebody who could self-reflect. That meant that when it was time to do those teacher interviews as a principal and say what's working, what's not working, when I would give feedback, it was going to be accepted and not just, you're giving feedback and for everything you're telling them, they're responding with why that didn't work out. Well, you didn't have this written on the board. Oh yeah, I know it wasn't there, but I read an article where it says don't write it at the start. Like, stop all the excuses. And that's what I look for in people, man. I'm 53 now, and I still look for people for a mentorship. And sometimes that's folks that's younger than myself. Sometimes they're older. And I've never tried to be stuck in that box where you can't learn something. The day you stop learning, that's the day you stop living.
Yeah,
That's true.
That's just what it is.
Oh, I agree.
If you're being honest about it.
So next question I have, because of course you're in education now. Did you go into the classroom directly, or did you go into administration? What was that process?
Graduated Benedict, certified teacher, and went to work full time at a record store in Columbia, South Carolina. Sounds familiar.
Okay.
Why that jump?
Yes.
Mom and pop. I thought, and I'll be honest with you, Hootie and the Blowfish, Darius Rucker.
Yeah.
Darius worked for Sounds Familiar.
Oh,
True.
I didn't know that.
And when Hootie and the Blowfish blew up, he left Sounds Familiar and went and toured the world. So I'm like, yo, let me get a job at Sounds Familiar.
Yeah.
I can still do my music on the side.
Yeah.
And that's what I did for about a year and a half. And my mom was nagging me like, yo, you got a degree in education and you're sitting here making $5.25 an hour at the record store. Because she was sending me an allowance every month.
Oh.
And she was like, if you don't get a job, I'm not sending the allowance. And it wasn't the first time she had made that threat to me.
Yep.
And honestly, I remember back then, I had an article, small article in Source magazine. West Coast had a Rap Sheets magazine.
Yeah.
I had a little article in Rap Sheets.
Okay.
So every time my mom would threaten me, I would mail her one of the articles. Like, Mom, I'm about to make it. Like, hang on.
Yeah.
And finally one day she was like, I'm done. And I go to the mailbox, I check, no money. So of course I called and she's like, Mervin, I'm serious, that's it. So I started interviewing. I said, you know what? I got dreadlocks down to my ass. Nobody's gonna hire me for no teaching job. Not in 19. Now you see that these days,
Yeah,
but
it's
back
different.
then
No.
you did not see that.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, nobody hired me. So I came to my first interview. I drove from Columbia to Charleston. Interviewed with the principal, and halfway back on the drive back, the principal called and said, "Hey, I need you to start working on Monday."
What year was that?
That was 97.
Wow.
October 97.
He called you back on the drive back?
On the drive back to Columbia.
In a car phone?
Well, I had my little cell phone. Yeah.
My fault. I'm over here trying. I had to check. I had to see how he did that. I'm trying to figure out how he did that.
I had my little cell phone.
Okay.
And you know what? And now that I think about it, I remember what happened. He called my house phone, but I called from my cell to check my voicemail.
Oh, okay.
And I had the message from him. So I started that Monday, man, and I just sort of fell in love with it. I remember when the kids walked through the door, I was nervous as hell.
You seem like you were a middle school teacher.
I was middle school.
Wow, you can tell. You can tell.
I can just tell.
But they came through the door, and I just smiled, and I was like, I'm home.
Yeah.
And man, and one of the first things I did was implemented a art history curriculum that actually looked at hip hop music and comparing some of the hip hop greats to some of the Renaissance artists.
Oh, wow.
And that was very different. The principal allowed for it to pass through. The kids loved it. But I mean, I would do things like talk about how Tupac Shakur and Raphael Sanzio had so much in common. They both had the flamboyant lifestyle. They both died young, fashion crazy. And the kids were able to connect with that, man. They made the connection. They got excited about, learning about the Renaissance artists.
Yeah.
I give them a test, and you see them sitting there going, "Oh yeah, he's the one like Biggie Smalls," and but it worked,
It worked,
And then I started an after school program called Ain't Nothing Like Hip Hop Music, and I would bring in local folks that were doing it big. And they would just talk with the kids about careers around the entertainment business. One of the first.
Any particular year?
Oh yeah, one of the first guests was Rose Rock, my godmother, but the mother of the comedian Chris Rock.
Wow.
What?
And I call her Mama Rock. Mama's been to every school I've ever worked at, from here to North Carolina. Mama's visited and spoke to the students, man. She comes here often and spends the weekend with us. But she was the very first guest. The Phlayva, which was the first hip hop group to sign a major deal out of South Carolina. They came, spoke with the kids. DJs came in, man, we had a lot of fun,
The class had to be super dope.
Oh yeah, man. I had a principal Merv. We got mind you, class size typical 25. At that school, 30 was more typical. But it wasn't nothing to have 40 kids in a class, man. But I didn't have any problems, man. No problems. We had a good time. And again, I knew it was a calling. So after doing that for a year, I had the assistant principal at the time, Danny Alagan. He walked up to me and said, yo, man, you need to go back to school for your administrative license. I can see you as an assistant principal. And I went back. I was teaching full-time, Charleston Southern part-time, and that took about 3 years. The crazy thing is I was working part-time at night at the bowling alley, and it was cosmic DJing, which was something that was pretty new for the time. You know, the twirling lights and neon stuff, and I was the guy on the microphone giving out prizes and playing the music. They called it DJ, but I just had one of those like 12 disc changes. And I was queuing up country hip hop and then walking around with a mic and giving out prizes. But they were paying me, now mind you, this is like 1998. They were paying me like $25 an hour. It was unheard of. I made
$25 an hour.
I made more money doing that part-time than I was making full-time as a teacher.
I figure. Yeah, man.
So that paid for my graduate degree. When I graduated, I walked out the door.
No debt.
No debt, because the bowling alley paid for it. Now, it was a hard time because I was watching my cousins. They were going to Jack the Rapper, because mind you, they're like even that Wu-Tang series where they showed them at Jack the Rapper. My cousin and those were there, and Old Dirty's in the room freestyling with them, and they're calling me, telling me this, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to class. Man, those 3 years ate me up. But at the end of the day, it was definitely worth it. And even as I was going through it, because I remember for 3 years, I didn't have a weekend. My weekends were at the bowling alley. I didn't miss a weekend. That's just what it was, man. But when I graduated, that's when I took off to Chapel Hill and actually went to the high school as a high school assistant principal in Chapel Hill.
Okay. So that's how that's how it started.
That's it.
Awesome. Yeah. Man, I think one thing I love about your story is it's like you got two pools, right?
No doubt.
You got a hip hop pool, and then you got the education pool. It's like it's like you've always had one foot in one pool and then one in another, but you're still able to stand. And I think that's what makes it really awesome. That's
a nice segue to this piece, because when I got to Chapel Hill, obviously I fell in eventually. Long story, I won't even tell that story, but I ended up being an affiliate of a group, the Justice League, out of North Carolina. And it was a great relationship. But one of the things I'll never forget, I called up Ninth one day. And mind you, that story with Ninth was producing out of my apartment. I had a 2-bedroom apartment, and Ninth's studio was set. That's how the first album with Ninth happened. His studio was in the apartment, so I would come home from work as a high school assistant principal, and Ninth would be in the back making beats. So I walk through the door, suit and tie on. He'd be like, yo, Spec, yo, hop in the closet, yo, I got one for you. And I just get in the closet and start rhyming, and eventually so that's how that album happened. But I called Ninth one day. I said, yo, Ninth, this hip-hop and education thing is about to go nuts, son. And he was just like, you think so, man? I was like, yeah. It's like, I don't know. Yeah. It wasn't 3 months later, I get a call from Ninth, and he's like, yo, some guys reached out from New York. They're doing this hip-hop music in the classroom, and they want me to do a few tracks, so why don't you come up and drop some joints with me, you and Median. And that was Flocabulary. That was Flocabulary.
That's how Flocabulary started.
That's
organic.
That was Flocabulary. So I mean, funny how things came full circle. And it was crazy because I showed up. First of all, I'm mad. And I never said this to Ninth, and we don't talk as much these days, but I never said this to him, but I was mad because I was like, dude, that's exactly what I was telling you was the jump off. Yeah, those guys sold the company. I won't even put their business out there, but everybody in this room would be comfortably retired with what they walked away with after starting it. You know, I mean, hey, man. Yeah, it's
everywhere.
Yeah, but I mean, and it's everywhere.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
You know, so anyway, man, that's how the introduction with Flocabulary happened. And you don't burn bridges, man. I stayed tight with those guys. They would call me up and ask me to moonlight. By that time, I was a middle school principal, and they would call me up and be like, yo, we got Chicago Public Schools wanting to do Flocabulary. Can you fly up and do a training at the Navy Pier. So I would go up and do a district-wide training, and they'd pay me a few $100 and take care of my flight and stuff. And then I come back and go back to being a principal. But I had no idea how big it had gotten until 2018.
Yeah.
I'm like at work in Cali, Anaheim, and I get a call from one of the founders. And as soon as his name popped up, I kind of jokingly, but I knew, I answered and said, "When can I start working?" And he bust out laughing. He was like, your spider senses never fail you, Spec. And that was it. 2018.
Okay.
I was full time with Flocabulary, and I like to say it was a dream job, man. I've always envisioned working with hip hop and education, and I get to do that for educators, man, which is crazy important because you know I always say I'm not the most religious guy, but careful what you ask God for, because I'm going to tell you guys this. I remember being very young and praying to God, saying, "Hey, man, I know most people want to get into this for the money and for the girls and the nice cars and the crib, but I just want to change lives." Now, I'm going to tell you guys right now, I was lying like a motherfucker. I was lying, straight lying.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to change lives. Yeah. Of course, I wanted the girls, the house, the cars.
Of course. Everything. Advocate
I'm like,
too.
hey, I'm talking to God, so I can't ask for that. But I got exactly what I asked for. So whenever I get down and start to get upset, I'm like, dude, you got exactly what you prayed for. You want to change lives? Guess what? Boom. Those 30 teachers you're about to meet with, they're about to touch 1,000 students, and them 1,000 students are going to touch this many. You got what you asked for.
Exactly.
That's what it is.
So a lot of people, like I said, because I'm familiar with Flocabulary.
Yep.
So for someone who may not be familiar with it or may not be involved in education, what is Flocabulary?
It's a K-12 digital platform that uses hip-hop music and videos to pretty much engage students around vocabulary acquisition and reading comprehension skills. That's what the platform does, and it does it really well. I like to tell people when I speak with superintendents or principals, that's what we do. Like, don't ask if we do this and if we do that, because now you're asking me to lie to you. And as a principal, that's what I didn't like. If you were a salesperson and you came to me and everything I threw at you, you had an answer for it,
that's a problem.
Yeah.
Man, you should have been on Oprah Winfrey's couch.
Yeah.
Like best-selling product.
Yeah.
Nah.
That's not right.
Nah. And that's the beauty of ed tech, man.
Yeah.
Is you piecemeal it to make sure you're hitting all the cylinders for the students to get those engines revving, man. Like there is no one size fits all. Anybody that tells you that, you might as well start looking sideways at that product, man. What do you do really well?
Exactly.
And rock with it, you know? And even as a team, you guys came in today and set up. I saw who was doing the work, moving around, the equipment, lighting things up while somebody else was sitting back going, you know what? My job is to get on and lay down the questions, and that's teamwork.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's teamwork. And it's one of the most beautiful things I like about the whole Super Friends concept, you know?
Yeah.
When it's alien encounters, you send Superman up there.
Yeah.
If it's something going down, street level thug, you get Batman down there.
Yeah.
If it's underwater, you send Aquaman.
Yeah, exactly.
That's teamwork, man.
Yeah.
And until we really get that, like so many of us want to play, it's one of the reasons why I think some of the great hip hop groups of all time just didn't make it work for the long run, for the long haul. I got a lot of groups I can name that I'm huge fans of, but you saw things fall apart. And I get it, people grow apart and all that stuff, but man, find what makes you happy and be happy doing it. You know, I can't worry about how much money you make in a year or what side of town you're living on. That's not doing anything for me. Maybe I'm going to be inspired by it, which is cool. But the whole animosity and be judgmental, that's what gets us, man. That's what gets us. And I spent too many years being a part of that. That now I never hesitate to spread that message to young people because it only slows down progress, man, and it makes you fall short of those goals that I know you got set for yourselves.
Man, we had a string of thought today that everybody discussed, and you just said it again. So I know this is real. This is something that my older brother beat me up about because, like I said, he's been telling me a lot about you. So trying to stay consistent, setting goals, and hitting marks.
Yeah.
Can you give some advice to our audience about that? Because I know that's something that we all deal and struggle with on a daily basis.
Yeah. You know, there's a quote, and it's from the hometown, Lou Holtz, South Carolina, University of South Carolina, former coach, and he said 10% of life is what happens to you. The other 90% is how you respond. And if people were to move like that, man, that would solve so many of our problems, man. I mean, think about that, man. 10% is what happens to you. The other 90% is how you respond. Like, what do you really have control of? You know, in relationships, you know, we make that mistake. You know, we try to control another person. Man, you only got control of yourself, and even that takes like daily reminding to oneself that this is what it is. You know, I love that man in the mirror concept. You know, again, that goes back to the classroom and teachers, like educators, period. You know, look at the person in the mirror, man, and ask yourself every day, did I give it 100? And if I didn't, what could I have done to have given it 100? Like, if we just stay in that lane, a lot of the just daily challenges, obstacles, we would surpass, man. And again, I know it's a short answer, but that's just the best way I can navigate, man. I mean,
that's a great answer.
That's the best way I can navigate, and ask that anybody else try and navigate.
I know a lot of things related to that could be negative. You think about fear, idea of failure, especially as a student or somebody young trying to grow up. You don't realize you have to fail. Is there a time that you had to speak to students about the need to allow yourself to fail?
You know, I can't. Like, I'm sure I've done that. You know, I talk the whole concept of having to crawl before you walk. Yeah. You know, it sort of spins into that ecosystem, I guess, for lack of a better term. But I don't know, man. If I had to, I spent a lot of time in Milwaukee some years ago working with a consortium of young black males from across the I guess, tri-region, they call it. But here's the interesting thing about Milwaukee that I didn't know. For black men, healthcare was some of the worst in the country. The school-to-prison pipeline was one of the worst in the country. And obviously, along with that, rolled into that, is the whole educational makeup. And when I would go up and speak with these young men, they were pretty much ninth grade through rising seniors. It always came down to finding what your purpose is. And I'm very intentional about the word purpose. A lot of us like to say, that's what I'm passionate about. And there's a slight difference, actually a major difference. Whenever someone tells you this is what I'm passionate about, not 100% of the time, but probably easily 75, 80% of the time, it's something that benefits them personally. But when you hear someone say, this is my purpose, that's usually affecting a community of people.
It's like an act of selflessness.
Whether it's a small community or even a bigger, greater community, that passion and purpose, man. And I have some people, they get upset when they hear me say that, and I get it. You can easily switch out both of those words, but just think about it in your conversations moving forward. When you hear somebody say, "Yo, I'm passionate about this," it's usually what's gonna make me better. And I mean, and not there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah, but the difference between Spider-Man and Iron Man.
Stop it now. Now you're in my territory, buddy. You know,
I just had to say that because you told,
But yeah, with great power comes great responsibility.
There you go.
And I mean, that's actually one of my favorite lines. I like to tell educators, that's what you guys are, man. I mean, you guys are superheroes. You really are superheroes. Like, no doubt about it. So So why take advantage of being held up in such high regard? And unfortunately, man, everything you got bad apples. Okay.
Yeah.
And there's no way around that.
Yeah.
And I hate that hip hop music gets such a bad shake.
Yeah.
But come on, man. We know how many positive rappers, MCs we got out there.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, like everything else, when the bad thing pops up, that's what gets front page, and that's just human nature, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But we got to call it out. We got to call it out, and if we don't, we have a generation of kids growing up thinking that's all they got access to.
Yeah.
When we know it so much.
And do you feel that's a responsibility? That is,
It is a responsibility.
Older generations, we should be doing that for the youth. Because I can expect a 16-year-old to understand the difference between positive culture and negative culture. I can't expect that.
Yeah. I mean, I came to a point as an educator where I expected kids to come needing the guidance. You know, I wasn't the educator like, these kids should be ready to learn. Their parents ain't teaching them nothing. Okay? But we got them now.
Yeah.
And as a principal, I said that all too often because that's what teachers would say. High school teachers in a meeting, and I've done high school, they say, oh, the middle school teachers didn't get them ready. Middle school teachers saying, oh, the elementary teachers didn't get them ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm sure, I've never taught elementary. I did my student teaching elementary in Columbia, South Carolina.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But I'm sure they're saying, oh, the parents didn't get them ready.
Yeah.
And you know what? All that out the window. We got them now. What are we going to do?
That's it.
Because my thing is, if a kid comes to you here, and by the end of the school year, you got them here, that's success.
Yeah.
So let's just quit all the time wasting, pointing fingers, and go to work.
So you do believe in incremental improvement.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
I think that's one of the things that, if it can be explained to folks, it helps them to get over that fear
No doubt.
of trying.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Man, think about it, man. When you work out,
Yeah.
you don't work out the first time, and I don't care if you go in the gym for 24 hours. You ain't coming out with a six-pack if you went in with a pot belly.
No, that's true.
You know?
That's true.
Now, I don't know what that Ozempic or whatever they got popping off now.
That's
I don't
crazy
know.
work.
But the reality is, you want a healthy six-pack, you're going to go and bust your behind, and you're going to give them some months, if not a year,
some discipline
of
comes
work.
with it.
But, hey, man, I mean, it's a win. It's a win. I love the process, dude. I love the process. As I look back, the only thing I tell younger folks now, and again, whether they see it or not, who knows? I guess some take it with a grain of salt. I'm sure I did. I can't remember anybody being that specific with me about this, but I tell them, like, don't live beyond your means, and that's what's going to free you up to do what it is you love doing. Like, it's as simple as that.
Advice.
Yeah, it's as simple as that. But we get caught up. Caught up, and it's the next big house, the next big car, and you're making more money, but you're running in place, man.
Yeah.
You're running good, but you're running in place.
Moving forward.
Yeah, and I mean, again, if you're okay with that, but you can't be okay with it when you're saying, I'm not happy about going to work on Monday morning.
Thank you.
Hey, man.
Yep.
Hey.
Yeah.
You know, we've all been there.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah.
We've all been there.
All.
I was having dinner with my boy B Rock and his brother Chris Rock. This was years ago, and we're at the dinner table, and we call Chrissy, and Chrissy looks at us and he's like, I don't envy you guys, man. Y'all got to go to work. I said, man, you work too. He said, nah, kid, I don't work. He said, matter of fact, what I do for a living, when I go to bed at night, I'm mad I got to go to sleep because I want to keep doing what I do.
Dang.
And honestly, that just stayed with me forever. Because I was like, what kind of life is that you are making a living doing something you don't want to even stop to sleep because it's that good. Been chasing it ever since, man.
So with that said, work-life balance.
Yeah.
What does that look like for you day to day?
Work-life balance. It's scary to be honest, because you don't want to wake up unemployed one day unless you've just done what I've just said,
You got it like that.
and really maximize it where it doesn't matter. So there's always that in the background, and it's one of the reasons why when I see people go out and become entrepreneurs, like I know what type of planning that takes, but to pull it off, I'm all hats off for that, man, because it's so much power in that.
Yeah.
And for the majority of us, we're working for the man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, honest.
Yeah, it's a guarantee every 2 week, whatever, every week paycheck.
Yeah.
And there's some comfort in that.
Yeah.
But you also got to know they can turn the lights out at any given moment.
Yeah.
And are you ready to pivot? You know, especially now being at an age where family is like number one, is no longer you're running solo. You're taking care of somebody, whether it's elderly parents,
True.
you know, spouse, kids, grandkids. So the balance is scary, but you do what you got to do, man.
Yeah.
You know, you do what you got to do. I mean, there's no magic button at this point. I look back at my own journey and I realize things I could have done to be in a much better situation. But at this point, all I can do is sort of pick up, almost like I said with teachers and kids.
Yeah.
Hey, we got them here. I get it. They should have been here, but we got them here.
Yeah.
So let's go.
Awesome.
I got to apply that to how I'm living day to day, man.
Advice,
Got to take my own advice. It's what it is. It's what it is.
Man, this is
What it is.
excellent conversation. I wish we'd go a little longer.
Hey, man. Hey, I'm good. I'm good.
Hey, man, I gotta ask you another question then. I'm asking one more
Look at the
question.
camera.
I gotta ask some more questions.
Somebody in the
man.
back.
Oh yeah. Producing back there, just looking at us
Yeah.
like, yo, okay.
She's just back here laughing.
keep
too.
them on point.
She's bugging.
Keep us on point. Keep
Yes,
us on point. I will say this: that I'm happy that you were just talking about like finding something that you do that you love that actually
Yeah.
pays for your life.
Yep.
I know my brother and I were having this conversation this week.
Yep.
We do these arbitrary conversations where we discuss off-topic things, culturally relevant things, and whatnot.
Yep.
And there's a line that Biggie says: "When your daughter's up there crying, ain't no telling you got to do what you got to do. So, however you got to get to that bag to make those ends meet, people will do, and I understand that that has to happen.
Yep.
However, is there anything like, and this is why I get to places with folks, like there has to be a limit to what you are able to commit yourself to do. Like you have to have some kind of moralistic line. This is what we're having this conversation.
Yep.
Yeah.
There has to be a moral line that you will not cross.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, the effect on culture and society is tremendous when it comes to certain actions. Meaning, people will repeat whatever they see is effective, whether it be bad or good.
Yep.
Doesn't matter.
Yep.
And I think for a lot of folks out of hip hop culture, and the reason I want to say hip hop culture is race, creed, that don't matter.
Yep.
It affects us all.
Yep.
The way in which we have been fed ways to exist and exceed expectation,
Yep.
we don't get a lot of good options.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this is just a moral question for you.
Yep.
Should you feel bad if you're doing well, if it hurts people?
In other words, people see you doing well and they're upset about it.
No, you're doing well.
Oh,
you're making money,
I got
but-
you.
Yeah,
I got you. But what you're doing,
it has a negative
it-
effect on your culture that you exist in. The reason why I'm saying this, I'm
Yep.
gonna tie it to you.
yep.
Some of this content that because we produce content.
Yep.
Some of the content that we have seen produced recently with folks around certain individuals who are now in the eyes of the law.
Yep.
A lot of these folks, you have now started to see cease and desist orders come out because it literally went too far.
Yep.
Yeah.
Our thing was it never needed to go that far in the first place.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the companies made money.
Yeah.
People got paid.
Yep.
Babies are fed.
Yep.
Is it cool?
You know, my personal answer, I hesitate on speaking for any group of people on that one.
Yeah.
My personal answer is, nah, it's not cool. Like, you know, man, it's a simple rule in life, and especially as you get older. They tell you should leave this world having it been made a little bit better than how you came into it. Like, and if you're gonna live by that, which is what I'm trying to live up to at this point in my life, then there's no room for that. There really isn't. I mean, if I'm gonna do something in the most simple terms, even though you just gave a complex breakdown of that, but if you were to just strip it down, that's your neighborhood drug dealer. I'm selling drugs to the community. But I'm buying everybody turkeys on Thanksgiving.
You know.
And passing them out. Nah. I mean, again, everybody has a different journey, man.
Yeah.
And your journey determines your resilience.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Nah, it really does.
Wow.
Your journey determines that. And in other words, at some point, somebody came to you and told you, yo, man, I know you're doing this, but if you do this, you can make this.
Yeah.
What's your resilience at that point?
Yeah.
Like we like to say, you know, it's about being smart and not smart. I mean, come on, we got some extremely smart drug dealers.
Yeah.
You know?
That's true.
Yeah.
But it's being in that moment and being able to say, you know what, I get it. Yeah, I could get the jewels and whatever and the girls or whatever. But that's in the process, I'm literally taking somebody's son, daughter, whatever out of here.
Yeah.
Nah, it's not. I'm not willing to put that on the line. You know, what's your resilience, man? And again, that's going to be upbringing. I mean, for some dudes, I had a great upbringing. I don't. My mom and dad did fantastic. I wish they would have given me some more jewels around finances.
Oh yeah, that's
You know,
a big. Yeah.
I didn't hear the word stock market in my house growing up. Like a checking and a savings. That's all I heard. You know, and then I had kids in the neighborhood. It wasn't even no checking and saving. Put your money under the mattress.
Oh,
you know, like that's what it was. So yeah, but other than that, man, a great upbringing. And I mean, for me, I used to tell my kids when I was a teacher, hey man, you know a good way to make sure every step is going to be a solid one? They're like, what, Mr. Jenkins? I said, whatever you do during the school day, in class, lunchtime, pretend there's a floating camera and your grandma's watching it. If you can't do in front of that camera what it is you're being asked to do without worrying about your grandma being hurt, you probably shouldn't be doing it.
God.
Plain and simple, man.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
And even as an adult now, my grandma 92. She turned 92 on last week.
Blessings.
And I still appreciate it. I'm still like, shit, how my grandma gonna feel about this?
She still floats. She's probably
Yeah,
floating
man.
right now.
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, man. Like, you know, but nah, back to it. That's everybody's built different for that.
Yeah.
But no, it's not right, man. It's not right. And again, the world would be such a better place if we kind of played that game a little different. But hey, man, the one thing I will say, we keep all this talk going about like it used to be and blah, blah, blah. It's human nature.
Preach.
And the elements we're talking about now, they've been with us since biblical times, even before that.
Yeah.
And I promise you, when we all hit the grave, our kids hit the grave, they're still going to be dealing with these elements. You know, the reality is there was a test that was done, brown eye, blue eye, education, you might know of it, but this teacher, white teacher,
Yeah. You're talking
Oh,
about,
yeah,
you're
yeah,
talking
yeah.
about-
took her students
Yeah.
and separated them based on eye color. And guess what? Racism, prejudices, and all that still came out with a class of all white kids based on eye color.
Yep.
So we're always gonna find a way. We're gonna find a way, man. So it's human nature, but it makes for the great story, and it also makes for the great ride. I like to call it the seesaw, man. I mean, there's gonna be some times where it's like this, sometimes where it's like that, and then it's gonna be the yin and yang, the perfect balance. And that's what we're striving for. We're striving to get it where it's just sitting just like this.
Yeah.
Yes.
But of course,
Hard to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great answer, man. I ain't got nothing else to ask, man.
Man, I guess we can go ahead and wrap it up.
Yeah, we will wrap it up. Well,
Yeah.
as always, this is DJ and what?
Skip.
Tamaya.
And our
Spectac.
yes. Man, stupendous guest
So
today.
socials. If
Yeah,
people
yeah,
want to
yeah,
learn
yeah.
more,
I-
check out your music.
Yeah, I think lifethroughmusic.com for just booking those speaking engagements and so forth and workshops. The book is out on Amazon.
Okay.
To the Beat of Leadership, a story of high and low notes. Some of the stories you heard today, you can find in that book.
Awesome.
And then social media is just Dr. Mervin Jenkins, first last name DrMervinJenkins. You can find me there on Instagram. I think TikTok, whatever the case.
You got TikTok?
I got a TikTok.
Yo, just step him up.
Yes.
Hey, all right. Well, I'm going to sign off for the Hilltop Glove podcast. As always, like to tell our audience, man, tell somebody next to them that you love them, that you appreciate them, that you cherish them. Until the next time, peace.
Peace.